This clip is brought to you by SaveWithConrad.com. If you watched New Generation in 95, you probably saw Bob Holly doing more than just wrestling. We also were treated to videos or montages of him racing his actual WWF race car. It's a bright red car with the number 15, an actual race car that Vince McMahon purchased. And on the episode of Something to Wrestle, Bruce said that Vince might have spent as much as $500,000 on this racing team, which when revenues are down feels like a stretch, but maybe Vince was looking for a big hit and some sort of crossover. Do you remember the whole race car side of this thing? And did you have high hopes for it? Did you think it was a good idea? What can you tell us about it?
I think Vince was sold on it. You know, Vince grew up in North Carolina. Last I looked, North Carolina was relatively famous for NASCAR.
Yes, sir.
And so consequently, he had a familiarity with it and knew that, and I don't disagree with this at all. I've long said that NASCAR fans and pro wrestling fans have a lot of the same characteristics. And so Vince thought it might be worth a shot. In his world, if it was $500,000 is not the end of the world. Wasn't going to make or break anything. So, but I understand your point. Business was not good, but that's the idea of doing something like this.
Yeah, give a shot.
They're trying to create something new, Conrad, and you know, hopefully it will get over, and it will sell tickets.
Let's also mention that ultimately, when Vince throws the towel in on this racing idea, he agrees to sell the car to Bob Holly for $100, which Bob thought was pretty cool of Vince to take care of him there. And his first WWF pay-per-view opponent is Hunter Hearst Helmsley. Happens at SummerSlam 95. Of course, Hunter goes over. At Survivor Series, he's a part of the Underdogs team, along with Marty Jannetty, Hakushi, and Barry Horowitz. Boy, if the name of your team is the Underdogs, that's probably not a good indicator for where your standing is with the company. And of course they're defeated.
Might not want to put your money on that bet.
Yeah. Maybe let's rent, not buy. But he does last 40 minutes in the Royal Rumble from 1996. But despite that, he's featured a lot less in 96 and even the following year. And I guess that's really what's sort of surprising about his run. He was there for so long, but he quietly had a pretty lengthy career. And Arn Anderson on Arn's show has said that that's kind of the sweet spot where maybe the pressure is not as huge, but you can still make a great living and still continue to work in the business you love. Probably not a bad way to look at it, right?
No, absolutely not. It's a very healthy way of looking at it. And if you really look at it in any other way, i.e., well, when am I getting my push? Because God knows, Conrad, the world revolves around the push. So consequently, if you thought about that all the time, it would be a negative.
Right.
Bob understood his role, like the Rock would say. He knew his role, and he was happy with his role. He did his role very well, and I believe that we paid him very fairly. So he wasn't destitute. He was being taken care of, as he deserved. It wasn't like it was a favor. He earned it. And he got paid for what he earned.
Let's also mention on the house show loops, he's working with a huge variety of opponents. Bradshaw, Austin, 1-2-3 Kid. Of course, he's not typically going over. A pretty memorable moment, though. The night after WrestleMania 12, Holly is the opponent for the debuting Mankind, the guy that you put your neck out there for and wanted to bring in, Mick Foley. He debuted his new Mankind character and the new mandible claw hold. And Bob Holly helped get it over in a major way. Why was Bob the right guy to debut against Mankind?
Well, you had all those names you just got through mentioning on the house shows.
Yeah.
It just speaks to what we're saying about Bob. If a guys like Austin signs off and all these other cats sign off that they work with Bob, or want to work with Bob, which was the case more often than not, then you can provide that opportunity because you got the eraser. And so his skill set was, he was reliable, and his skill set was sound. and he wasn't going to hurt anybody. And that meant a lot because talents didn't want to be, when the business was getting so hot, the last thing you wanted to be was to be unbooked because of injury. And so I think Bob, he understood what he's there to do.
Right.
And he was cool with his role, and he wasn't always looking for something else that just at that time was not there.
First appearance, though, for the WWF happens 2 months later. Again, he's an enhancement talent. He's working with the Bushwhackers on March 30th, 1991 on an episode of Superstars. So he's still trying to make a name for himself. He winds up in Smoky Mountain and makes his debut at the company's very first TV taping on October 30th in Greenville, South Carolina. He's going to do like a snobby West Coast character, calling himself Hollywood Bob Holly. Did you ever see him in Smoky Mountain? Do you remember seeing him there?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I watched Smoky Mountain on a regular basis. And ended up working there a little bit. Wasn't wild about the West Coast Hollywood Bob Holly character.
Right.
Because when he opens his mouth, he don't sound Hollywood. He sounds Alabamian. And there's nothing wrong with you Alabamians, Conrad, but nobody's going to confuse your accent
with Hollywood,
with Southern California. Sorry. Break that to you. Well, that doesn't affect your movie career or something, but
no.
But yeah, I think he was, and he was a good get for Smoky Mountain because Bob could work with, see, here's the great thing. Bob can work babyface or Bob could work heel. He's not going to have a bad match with anybody. Everything's going to be good or better than maybe deservedly so. So that's an invaluable trait. And Bob was reliable. Bob did no show and bullshit, and which is, for me, as a head of talent relations, that's the money because, just reliability is it, man. I can't rely on you, then why the hell are you here?
In talking to Bruce about Bob for an episode of Something to Wrestle, he said that Cornette put in a good word for him, which makes sense since he was in Smoky Mountain. But he also wrote in his book that it was actually Paul Bearer who sent the tapes to the company's attention.
Right.
And J.J. Dillon, I think, was in charge of talent relations at the time, and he was a fan. So he actually returns to the company on January 11th, 1994, with the initial gimmick of a NASCAR driver turned wrestler. I guess this is the occupational era. You had garbage men and dentists and everything else in the WWE.
Plumbers.
Yeah. All that silliness. But the name, well, that leaves a little bit to be desired. They're going to call him Thurman Sparky Plug. And on the vignettes where they tease this new character, my friends call me Sparky. Is this the worst era of WWE creative?
I don't know if it's the worst era or not, but that name was hokey.
Yeah.
You turn people off right away. So now you got to get over the aversion to the name, which should not even be in the conversation. If your people are turning this talent away, pushing him or her away, and one of the reasons is this real hokey pro wrestling nickname, then, you're already challenged. And I think that's the case with Bob. Nobody took that character seriously.
Yeah. They didn't take it seriously to the point that when he did an interview with Sean Oliver over at kayfabecommentaries.com. And he says, he was once recognized as being a wrestler on an airplane, and the other passenger kept pestering him. Hey, what's your wrestling name? Hey, what's your wrestling name? And eventually he leans over and whispers Thurman Plug, and the fan just busts out laughing. Because it's hard to take that seriously. And of course he takes that news to Vince and continues to pester the office over and over. And eventually he gets to change his name. So by August, he's Bob Sparkplug Holly. I don't know that that's a lot better, but it's a lot better than Thurman Sparky Plug.
Oh yeah. Get rid of Spark. Yeah. Plug's got to go. And yeah, it was not good, man. It was, and just, we had, but like we were talking, we had, TL Hopper.
Yeah.
All these cute little names, right? All these, and all these professions.
Isaac Yankum.
Yeah. Dr. Isaac Yankum, DDT, DDS or whatever they are. DDM. I don't know what the fuck.
DDS.
Yeah. So, that was, There were a lot of those crazy, and they all got vignettes.
Yeah.
While the main event guys were waiting to get some production time, these underneath yahoos was getting all the vignette time. I don't think I didn't hear about that. When they're going to do the vignette on me, JR, I don't know. Can't tell you. I don't have any idea. I'll find out for you, though, because I know you're concerned.
Bob does. Hey, it's Conrad Thompson. Thanks for checking out the podcast here on YouTube. Be sure to hit the subscribe button and the notifications bell so you get a notice anytime we upload some new content. And go save yourself some money right now. If you're in a 30-year loan or you have credit card debt, it's not a matter of if I can save you money. It's a matter of how much. Find out right now for free at SaveWithConrad.com.